You thought that I was playing in the past. Now I'm super fast, real, raw, relevant. I'm also known as super bad, with a super attitude. If you don't like it, you can book a pass and be the first in line to kiss mine. Wait a minute, what I mean is I'm a lion, not a sheep. I don't need a weakling around to try to follow me. I'm destined to be better, get it bigger every day. I don't got the patience to sit around try to play. Focus like an animal, king of the jungle.
Don't tread on me. Don't tread on me, son. My friends, welcome to the Revolution Podcast. I am Sean Whalen, and I decided to go at it alone today. I had some thoughts and I had some things that I wanted to share with you guys. And so today I'm not only going to be host, but I'm going to be the, what do we call him? The guest? Yeah, I'll be the host and the guest. So over the last couple of days, I've been creating some great change and shifting some things up in a couple aspects of my life with business and personal stuff, which is normal, right? Cool, nothing fancy about that, about creating change, because all of us are doing it. But something that I'm leaning into and something that I'm really starting to understand is just how powerful change is and how needed change is. We're afraid of it. We're scared of it. It's daunting. Changing jobs, changing careers, changing locations, changing cities, changing towns, changing churches. It freaks us out. And so a lot of times we stay complacent in a situation or stay complacent in a reality that might not be our favorite. It might not be the best. It might not be providing us the most money. It might not be providing us the most comfort. But we stay there because it's comfortable. And the idea and the thought and the notion of change is scary. And I welcome it. I embrace it because I've done it for so long. I mean, I've changed a lot of different ideas. I've changed a lot of things in my life. I've created change in multiple different areas of my life. Perfect example is going through a divorce. I had a really, really bad experience and bad relationship with my ex-wife. And that was something that I didn't want anymore. More than not wanting the bad relationship, I just didn't want to be angry anymore. A lot of people have heard me share this story, but I was banging my head against the wall over and over and over again trying to get a different result, and I wasn't getting a different result. And it was causing me frustration. It was causing me anger. It was causing me disappointment. And it just wasn't a good spot for me. And I was angry about it. I was frustrated as the alpha male trying to create solution, create change. When I wasn't getting that change, it was causing me to be, pissed off. And so I decided to go a different direction. I hired a coach, and the change started to come. It was uncomfortable. It was not pleasant. It was hard. It was frustrating. But at the end of the day, the change came. And one of the things that I have noticed about myself is, and in particular with people that are, that I don't want to say necessarily operating at a higher frequency, but people that are leading conversations, that are leading business, that have become successful. It's not that change is easier. It's that people become more committed to the change. They become more committed to doing the work to create the change, and there's no other option for them. And this is something that I've noticed over the last little bit is when you get to a point where you realize that what you're doing, where you are, what you're earning, your relationship status, so on and so forth, is not what you want it to be. There is no other option but to change. And, I'm reminded of this story, and I wanted to share this story with you guys. Many of you have heard this, but I want to share it anyways because it's profound, and it's a mentality. And change becomes a mentality. Change becomes something that you become committed to. It's not something that just happens once and you're like, oh, okay, that was great, cool, I can check it off the list. I changed one thing, but it becomes a mentality. The idea and the notion of truly changing your life, like truly changing your environment, truly changing who you are, it almost becomes like an addiction. I'm constantly wanting to change. And what's interesting is I'm wanting to change because growth is change. Evolution is change. Wisdom is change. Knowledge is change. The more books you read, the more your mind expands. The more your mind expands, the more your mind changes. This is a good thing. So many people say to me, Sean, you've changed. So what do you mean? Like, well, you used to be more humble, or you used to be this, or you used to be that. And what's fascinating to me is their perception of who I am or who I was. And really what they're saying is that the change in who you are and who you're becoming, who you're striving to be, makes me uncomfortable. And that's okay. I mean, it's not my responsibility. It's not my job to make people comfortable, but it's my job and my responsibility to continue to grow and to continue to learn. And if that makes somebody else uncomfortable, so be it. But I want to really, really, really impress this idea, this concept, this notion that change is inevitable. Like you will either be moving forward in the progression and the way that you want to be moving forward, or you will be changing and or reverting back to an older version of yourself, a less refined version of yourself. And so there has to be that commitment. There has to be that mentality. There has to be that notion. And I truly believe, like anything else, you practice something, you do something with enough repetition, you become good at it. And I don't know how you can really dictate or define being good at change, but I consider myself somebody that's good at change because I've done it so much. I still have the fear. I still have the trepidation. I still have the nervousness. But I also realize that on the other side of this decision, on the other side of this movement, on the other side of this action will be a different result. And if I've planned, if I've strategized, if I've structured right, it will be a result that is favorable for what I want. It will be something that I've set out to get. So let me share with you this story really quick because it illustrates a high-level commitment to change. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that say, well, I want to change, but they're not willing to do anything. They get the Gold's Gym membership or the membership on December 31st because they're ready to lose weight. They're ready to jump in. They say, well, I'm going to stop doing this or I'm going to stop doing that. And it's kind of this half-assed commitment. And they wonder why nothing ever happens. This is kind of going back to the story of my divorce. I was trying to do all these different things and thinking that I knew how to do it, and it wasn't happening. And it wasn't until I radically committed financially to a coach that the change started to happen. Let me read you this story. It was the year 1519, and Cortez, with some 600 Spaniards, 16 or so horses, and 11 boats, had landed on a vast inland plateau called Mexico. The Spanish conquistador, how do you say it? Conquistador? Yeah, that works. And his men were about to embark on a conquest of an empire that hoarded some of the world's greatest treasure. Gold, silver, and precious Aztec jewels were just some of what this treasure had to offer anyone who succeeded in their quest to obtain it. But with only 600 men, none of whom had encumbered themselves with protective armor, conquering an empire so extensive in its territories could only be undertaken by a man with a death wish. This daring undertaking was even more insurmountable by the fact that for more than 600 years, conquerors with far more resources at their disposal, who attempted to colonize the Yucatan Peninsula, never succeeded. Cortez was well aware of this fact, and it was for this reason that he took a different approach when he landed on the land of the Mayans. Instead of charging through cities and forcing his men into immediate battle, Cortez stayed on the beach and awoke the souls of his men with melodious cadences in the form of speeches. His speeches were ingeniously designed to urge on the spirit of adventure and invoked the thirst of lifetimes of fortune among his troops. His orations bore fruit, for what was supposedly a military exploit now bore the appearance of extravagant romance in the imaginations of Cortez's troops. As a side note, I mean, I've read the story and I've listened to this multiple times. I mean, Cortez was a very, very illustrious man. I mean, he motivated people. He spoke words of encouragement, so on and so forth. But this was a battle that he knew he could not win. This was something that had been attempted by multiple people. And candidly, it was the mentality aspect of why they had not succeeded. Back to the story. But ironically, it would only just be 3 words with which Cortez murmured that would change the history of the New World. As they marched inland to face their enemies, Cortez ordered, "Burn the boats." it was a decision that should have backfired. For if Cortez and his men were on the brink of defeat, there wasn't an exit strategy in place to save their lives. Remarkably, though, the command to burn the boats had the opposite effect on his men because now they were left with only two choices: die or ensure victory. And fight they did. We know today how Cortez's decision to burn the boats panned out. Cortez became the first man in 600 years to successfully conquer Mexico. Though historians still dispute the veracity of Cortez burning his boats, it's doubtless that Cortez did destroy his boats. I mean, this is all theory, who knows? But he wasn't the first man to make such a bold strategic decision to ensure victory. About 1,000 years prior, the world's greatest emperor builder, Alexander the Great, burned his boats upon arrival of the shores of Persia. By burning his boats, Alexander committed his men to victory over the Persians, who far outnumbered the Greeks in great numbers. Furthermore, Persia then also had the distinction of having the most powerful naval fleet in the world. Considering what Alexander was facing, the decision to destroy the Greeks' only hope of retreat was an extraordinary one. Nonetheless, it proved to be correct. Like these two stories, these two experiences, we can read them as story, we can read them as fiction, we can read them as these fables of past, or we can look at them and apply them literally to our own lives. And I've realized that every plan that I've come up with, every strategy that I've put in place, the simplest and quickest way for me to fail is to try and have a plan B or a plan C or a plan D. Some of the most successful people I know set out with a plan, set out with a goal, set out with a target, and they don't quit, they don't change, they adapt. And at the end of the day, there's no plan B. There is no failure option. It's literally live or die. And just like Cortez, just like Alexander the Great, going into battle where it's literally your life. You and I are not faced every single day, for the most part, with these extreme decisions of do we want to live or do we want to die? We're faced more with, do we want to make this change in our business? Do we want to quit our job and launch into the entrepreneurial private sector? Do we want to, take this step in our relationship? Do we want to make this commitment and go the depth, go to a whole new level? Do we want to become a parent? These are decisions that we deal with. We're not dealing with landing on a shore and literally having no escape route. But the mentality is the same. The mentality is the exact same. The most successful people I know dive into something and know that I don't have an exit strategy. I will make this work. And they do. They adapt, they mold, they work, they change, they shift as needed, and they make the plan work. That's the difference, in my opinion, between successful people and unsuccessful people. In a relationship, if you love this person, if you truly see the vision and the future and you've embraced the opportunity together, you will do the work. There is no exit. There is no option for something different. There is no, the grass is greener. This is where my heart is. This is where my soul is. This is the work that I will do. And you do the work. It's the same thing with business. Times get tough. Shit comes at you. Relating back to the story, I mean, you're invading this peninsula. You're diving this business. You're exploiting this business into a brand new world, a brand new realm, a brand new market space. Where do you go? What do you do? How do you do it? If you have these plan Bs and plan Cs and you plan on failing, you plan on having these exit strategies, it makes it so much easier. When you literally burn the boats, when you literally make the choice of change, when you say, I am going to fucking do this no matter what. I will do this. I will conquer this. No matter what it takes, I will do it. And you leave yourself no exit strategy. You leave yourself no plan B. You literally become ruthlessly committed to obtaining this goal, hitting this target, working this plan. Ultimately, just like training as a warrior, training as a fighter, you become good at it. The more you do it, the better you become. The more times you set out to accomplish your goal, the more times you burn the boats, the better you become at burning the boats. The more time you set fire to those ships and say, there is no fucking exit strategy, the better you become at creating change. I'm a firm believer in this. I'm a firm believer in change. I believe that, I'm not the same guy that I was 6 months ago. I'm not the same guy that I was a year ago. And I sure as hell am not going to be the same guy in 6 months from today that I am today. I sure as hell am not going to be the same guy a year or 2 or 3 from now that I am today sitting at this table. That's my goal. That's the plan. I plan to change. I want to change. There are no other exit strategies. There are no other options. I want to change. I'm desirous of change. I'm ruthlessly committed to change. So the next time somebody comes along and says, buddy, you've changed, look at them dead in the eye and say, thank you. That's, believe it or not, that's a compliment. Believe it or not, that they want to look at that as potentially an insult, potentially trying to shift your mind into guilt, into thinking there's something wrong with you. Somebody says to me, Sean, you've changed. I'm like, you're damn right I've changed. Thank you for noticing. It's a compliment to me. It's a reassurance that I'm on the right track. It's a reassurance that I'm heading in the right direction. When other people around me notice the change, when they notice that I'm different, it's exactly the game plan. I don't want to be the same. Being the same sounds boring. Being the same is not pleasant. Burn the boats, man. Like right here, right now, as you're listening to this, there's things in your life, there's things in your space, there's things in your business, in your relationship that you know are holding you back, that you know damn well are keeping you from living the life that you want to live, doing the things you want to do, earning the money that you want to earn. Commit to that change and burn the boats. There is no other option but obtaining this. It was really fascinating. A story that I remember was I've been fired from 2 jobs. I got fired from right out of high school. I think it was maybe I was in high school. I worked at Baskin Robbins. I got a job at Baskin Robbins. And it was like the second day that I was at Baskin Robbins, and they wanted me to wear this hat. And it was dirty. It had like ice cream stains and shit on it. And I'm like, I'm not wearing this hat. And she's like, you need to wear this hat or we're going to fire you. I said, well, you bring me a clean hat tomorrow and then I'll wear a hat. And they said, fine. And so I showed up the next day and there was no clean hat, and they like demanded that I wear the hat. And I said, I'm not wearing the hat. And they fired me. The other time I got fired from a job was when I was a sales manager, and I moved to a different location, and I was kicking ass. And the director of sales and marketing, essentially my boss, didn't quite like me because I wanted her position. And I remember, doing really, really well and hitting targets and hitting numbers and all this other stuff. And it just became kind of a threat. And so ultimately I ended up getting fired. And I remember driving I just bought a brand new house and I had a brand new baby. And I remember driving to the side of the mountain, and I'm overlooking the valley. I had just been fired. My wife didn't know about it. I was freaking the fuck out. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had like a month and a half worth of savings in the bank, kind of a thing. And I remember driving, and I just sat there for a couple of hours, and I just thought and thought and thought and thought. And I remember that experience vividly. I remember realizing and thinking to myself, like, I've got the ability to do this. I can do this. And come hell or high water, within the next 30 days, I will replace my income. And I did. There was no other option. There was no backup plan. I didn't have rich family. I didn't have rich uncles or siblings that could float me for 6 months. I declared to the universe, I was like, I will make this thing work. And I worked my absolute guts out to be able to get what I wanted, to create the change. And since that day, that was the last, quote, real job that I ever had. I've never had a, quote, real job since then. I've worked for myself ever since then. And I attribute, the tenacity that I have today to business and to working and to burning the ships to truly doing it. And having done it so many times that I realized that, like, if you want something bad enough, if you truly want the change, and this isn't some rah, rah, rah speech, but this is the God's honest truth. If you truly want it, if you truly want to create that change, if you truly want to do that, burn the fucking boats and do it. If you truly want to achieve something, if you truly want that job, if you truly want to become the entrepreneur, burn the fucking boats and go do it. If you truly want this relationship, burn the fucking boats. Burn every other option. Close every other door, every other opportunity for you to emotionally, psychologically, or physically connect with another human being. And burn the fucking boats and go all in. If you want to see your business thrive, burn the boats. Burn them. It's the scariest fucking thing you'll do, but yet it's the most liberating, empowering, and effective thing that you could ever do to create change, is to burn the boats. Get rid of plan B. Get rid of the other options. Get rid of the distractions. Get rid of every exit route that you have. Burn the boats and push your way to the finish line. That's it. Plain and simple. So my friends, I appreciate what all of you go through, because I go through it every single day. I'm a father. I've got an ex-wife and bills and a business and things and fears and deals, and just like every other person out there. So I completely understand. I completely empathize with where people are and situations that are difficult and some more scary than others. But I would absolutely have you consider that there is only one way to create the change. That is to make the decision that you want the change and then burn every single boat behind you. Move forward. It's the only direction that's going to get you where you want to go. Not to the right, not to the left, not jumping in the canoe or the kayak and floating around for a little bit to see if everything's going to work. Burn the fuckers to the ground and move forward. So my friends, keep waging war, keep doing you, keep fighting the good fight, and burn the boats. Make it an amazing day. God bless America.